What's going on, y'all? This is JB with another Executive Mindset. And before we even get into anything, yes, you right now, go ahead and like this video. Go ahead and subscribe to the Prez X TV so you can be notified whenever we drop any content. So let's get into this with pretty boy Floyd, Chicago's own, which is Juwan Howard. He got suspended for the rest of the regular season for pimp slapping Wisconsin's assistant coach after an exchange they had after a game, which Michigan lost fairly badly. And it's obvious Juwan Howard was in the wrong and should have had some type of punishment. But this executive mindset is keying in on the suspension because many of the Twitter activists were ready to pounce on this whole story if the University of Michigan even considered firing Juwan Howard. People like Jamel Hill and newly hired ESPN correspondent Angela Rye were waiting to turn this whole thing into another overblown race issue. But in reality, at the end of the day, Juwan Howard got off real light considering what happened. And again, this is not to deny there being no race problems within the NCAA and any other PWI. But I believe this situation with Juwan Howard showed what really matters, which is winning and money. Although Michigan is having a down year, especially compared to last season, when I believe they almost made the Final Four, they weren't about to let Juwan go because as a whole, he has brought more notoriety, better recruits, and the Fab Five is on the brink of being recognized again by the university and maybe even get their number retired. And one of the most famous members of that Fab Five, Jalen Rose, he's always on national television, on his national broadcasted ESPN shows, bigging up Michigan, saying how good Juwan Howard is doing, and so on and so on. Like it's literal a marketing dream for Michigan at this point because you don't pay Jalen Rose to do that. He does it freely because he loves his school, his alma mater, and he loves his friend. You know, for them to fire Juwan Howard was going to mean more backlash and negative press than they need in a time like today, especially with all we have going on with the Brian Flores stuff, that situation, that lawsuit they got going with the NFL. Like it just wasn't going to happen. And I said all that for the people to give the powers that be at Michigan some type of credit for handling the Juwan Howard situation kind of how they did, because when you look at it, you know, Juwan Howard got handed over some of that kind of white privilege that we talk about. You know what I'm saying? Because the statement that Juwan Howard has been suspended for the rest of the regular season sounds way worse than what it actually is. You know, the regular season has only at this point of the season, at this point in time, it only have like 5 or 6 games left in it. And you would think that suspending him for the postseason too would have been reasonable given, you know, how he popped Buddy on top of the head like he did. I slapped him like he did. But they let him off pretty light. And I think that should be noted. You know, I, for one, I'm happy about it because many other times people would drag a story in the mud for weeks. In this type of situation was handled differently. I'm just saying we need to be out front and run with this kind of narrative as well when it applies. I will put that caveat out there. When it applies, instead of always paintbrushing everything as racism, as racist, and that black people never get a fair deal or never experience some type of residue of white privilege. And looking at this situation, Juwan, he definitely got some residue of that because he actually almost got into another incident with Maryland's coach last year, Mark Togan, I think his name is, and they had to hold him back. I think he got ejected from that game in the Big Ten tournament. You know, so this is not really even the first time that this actually happened. You know what I'm saying? So Michigan, if they really wanted him gone, they could have used this as an excuse to be like, okay, we'll just get rid of him and go to the next one. But clearly they still want him because of all the stuff that he brings to the table, kind of like with Memphis and Penny. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not saying, you know, this type of thing happens often with Juwan kind of getting off light, but there needs to be more balance because it's never as bad, meaning all this racism and, you know, as the mainstream media tries to portray it. And on the other side, it's not non-existent, you know what I'm saying, or never a factor at all, like some claim it to be. The executive decision is to be glad for my guy, pretty boy Juwan Howard, but don't be ignorant and act like he didn't get a favorable ruling based on all that happened. What y'all think? You think he got a little white privilege in there, given the situation and all? Leave a comment, like, and subscribe, and continue with that executive mindset. Salute.